Hello Business 202. This YouTube video demonstrates how to use the CengageNOW software to understand the chapter contents. To get to Cengage, either type in CengageBrain.com in your web browser, or you could also use CengageNOW.com. That will bring you to your page, the home page for CengageBrain, and you'll note that you have three tools that you can use. The first would be the CengageNOW Learning Support software. The second would be the MindTap Reader, which represents the digital version of your textbook. And the third, which I hope you use frequently, are the study tools. The study tools give you a whole bunch of practice exercises and solutions to those exercises that you can use to study. What I'd like to do in this session is just to give you an idea that other folks have used in the past who have been very successful in Accounting 1 and Accounting 2. Usually what the productive students do is to go to the CengageNOW software and open it. Click on the open, and that will take you directly to the Cengage software. And for chapter 14, it opens in the very first page that you see here, which represents the various tools that the software allows you to have. First is the ebook, and the ebook begins with the chapter introduction and the learning objectives. It's a good idea to browse through these learning objectives so that you have an idea of what's coming up. And since 3 days are dedicated to this chapter, figure on doing 2 of these learning objectives each day. Now, a heads up, item 1 and item 2 on the nature of bonds, those take a medium level of effort to do. And financing corporations, that will be a test question, so make sure that you understand how those work. Learning objectives 3 and 4 on the journal entries and accounting for bonds payable and the installment notes, these 2 would be the hardest elements of the chapter and will take the most time. So we'll make sure that we give another video to support those on Wednesday. Now, each of the chapters that you have will have a section on reporting this particular topic that the chapter has, in this case long-term bonds, on the financial statements. And really, folks, this is what accounting is about. How do you report these different financial instruments on the financial statements? I'm real big on you guys learning this, so make sure that you understand how things are reported, and I'll suggest always click on that first so that you recognize how the particular topic of this chapter will appear in the financial statements. And for many of the chapters that we have, this Morning Joe coffee shop will be the illustrative company. And as you see here, the liabilities for notes and bonds payable have a current portion and a long-term portion and are reported under the right-hand credit side of the balance sheet. To get back to the chapter contents, just click the icon labeled Chapter Contents. In addition to the reporting element or learning objective, there's also a financial analysis and interpretation objective, which is another important thing because these financial analysis and interpretation items represent the tools that real business managers use to make decisions. And one of the things that's important that a banker will look at a company for is its ability to pay interest and principal as these items come due. And so the times interest earned measure is the one that's being used. And again, click on that so that you have an idea of how it works. In essence, what you are doing is comparing the income that the business earns before it pays any interest and before it pays any taxes. So this fraction times interest earned would be earnings before interest and taxes, abbreviated EBIT or EBIT, divided by the amount of income that will be taken up by the interest charges. So it consists of how much of pre-tax, pre-interest income there is to service the interest. So if you have a times interest earned of 6, that means earnings before interest and taxes would be 6 times the size of the interest expense, which is a minimum level of coverage that many businesses want, or many bankers want businesses to have, in showing that it can pay interest charges as they come due. So just to recap, review the items that you have as the learning objectives, take a fast look at the reporting of that objective, and then the financial analysis and interpretation. The second thing that I like to do is to go to the end of the chapter and look at the at a glance feature. What this feature does is to give a thumbnail sketch of all the learning objectives of the chapter, in addition to showing you some of the illustrative problems on how to work the related exercises for that learning objective. So for this particular chapter, you can see the first item is to compute the potential impact of long-term borrowing on earnings per share. And it gives a key point, and it tells you what you should be able to do after reading that particular section. And in this case, it's to define the concept of a bond. It's a source of long-term borrowing. Now, here are the things that I think are really good for you to look at. Number one would be the example exercise. This is an example that comes right from the textbook, and it illustrates how to do the related problem to showing these bonds. In addition, it shows you 2 practice exercises that you can do, which appear at the end of the chapter. You know, at the end of the chapter you have 3 types of exercises. Practice exercises, which are single issue, very straightforward problems. You have the exercise series, which are a little bit more involved. And then you have problems, which are multi-objective problems that put more than one learning objective together. But first look at the example exercise by clicking on it, and it gives you an illustrative problem on this particular learning objective, and most importantly, it shows the answer on how to solve this issue. And so you can see how the computations go for that particular exercise. And then you can do 2 follow-up exercises, practice exercise 1A and practice exercise 1B. Now, when you do these exercises, 1A and 1B, these take you directly to the back of the book, and a disadvantage here is that although you have a problem to work on, it doesn't give you the answer right away. A more practical way to do that would be to use the CengageNOW practice examples that are in the software that give you problems that are very similar to this, but they also give you answers to them. So let's take a look at those. Okay, so we were in the MindTap Reader. Let's go back to the CengageNOW chapter overview. So some things that you have would be the ebook, and there are some animated examples that represent essentially PowerPoints that illustrate the particular chapter objective. So let's just listen to this one on the nature of bonds for a few minutes.
On January 1st, 2015, York Products sells bonds with a face value of $100,000. The bonds carry a 6% interest rate and a January 1st, 2030 maturity date. Interest is to be paid semi-annually on July 1st and January 1st. York would record the bond issuance with a simple and straightforward entry to increase cash and bonds payable in this way.
Okay, so what this illustration did was to show you how to record the bonds, an increase in cash, an asset, and an increase in bonds payable, the liability that will appear on the balance sheet. And so each learning objective has 2, 3, sometimes 4 videos like this that explain how to do the particular examples. In addition, There are some flashcards that are available that represent digital flashcards that get you used to the various definitions that are within the chapter. And what this allows you to do is to review the term and you give the definition to it, or it can show the definition first and then you can give the particular term that applies to it. So this is a good way to make sure that you know all the terms that are part of the chapter. These are also good for matching type questions that you'll see on examinations. There's also a crossword puzzle that if you enjoy those sorts of things, you can do, and it just gives you the definitions of various terms in accounting from this chapter, and you will enter those related terms in the crossword puzzle. But the neat thing about it is that if you, for this case, want to cross the excess of the issue price of a stock over its par value or the excess of the issue price of bonds over their face amount, in this case it's a premium, and if you didn't know that, what you could do is to reveal that, and it would be another way to effectively use this crossword puzzle. There's also a quiz bowl that operates a little bit like Jeopardy. And what you would do is to enter your name, and then you can choose a particular face for that particular character and continue on the quiz. And as you can see, it will give you a Jeopardy board, and you can select from the Jeopardy board on the different categories of questions that you have, and you give that a try and see what you think of it. Now, the thing that I think is very good, in addition, what you have are some tutorials on Excel. We will be using Excel spreadsheets throughout the course, and these tutorials give you some tips on the tools that you will need to solve for some of those items. So let's just take a look at the amortization for a bit. These are step-by-step items. It shows you a spreadsheet and moves you through the different calculations that you will use.